We're live.
We're live? All right. Hey, we're live. Guys, happy Wednesday. It is question and answer time with Funkle Caleb. Not really, but listen, I do have a treat for you guys. I promised my friend Barry that I would play his song for everyone today that he gave me on voicemail. So I'm gonna turn this up. I'm gonna do the best I can.
You may have to get closer.
Do I have to get okay? I'm gonna get closer. But this is my good friend Barry. I won't say his last name just to protect the lives and family of the innocent here. But Barry called me the other day and gave me a great song that apparently he wrote himself. So you ready? This is a real treat. Here we go. Oh, hold on. Pardon me. Technical glitch. There we go.
Yo, Caleb Walker. I wrote a song about you, and it goes a little something like this. Caleb Walker, he's a bug man. Caleb
good, right?
Walker, there's nothing he can't do. Caleb Walker, he's a bug man.
It's amazing.
And if a bug is scaring you, call him. That was my song. I wrote that for you.
Gosh, you know what?
Talent.
Voice of an angel. Am I right? Voice of an angel. Disconnected?
Now we're live again.
Okay, now we're live again. Okay, all right. So, shout out to Barry. Thank you so much for that song. Beautiful. I really like the acapella.
And I apologize for any going in and out with the video today because Facebook and Instagram are all having some issues today. So
yeah, it looks like both of these are giving us the circle of death here on the computer, but we're going to plow forward and do the normal question and answer time. And obviously, if you guys have any questions, you can message us. You can send those in. Even after we finish today, you can still message us on Facebook, and we will bring those questions up. We'll answer those when we do this again next week. I'm not here next week. You got to hit up Lucas and see if he can fill in. I don't know. Okay. If not, I'll see you in 2 weeks. But I am going to Andrews, North Carolina next week. There is a missions camp in Andrews, North Carolina. My understanding is Andrews is the poorest county in North Carolina, so we take a group from our church up there every year. Me and my friend Tim Wadsworth. Tim is the youth pastor at North Hills, so shout out to North Hills and Tim. And we're going to take a group of teenagers, go up there. We're going to do some service projects in the community, so we're typically going to either be putting on roofs. We've done rebuilt decks for people, built some handicap ramps with decks and things like that for some people in need that wouldn't be able to do that, wouldn't be able to afford that otherwise. Lots of painting. We built a flooring system in some shed, barn, I don't know what you would call that, last year. Just a lot of different things, a lot of good that the guys there at Snowbird Wilderness Outfitters in Andrews, North Carolina do. So I'm going to be up there all of next week helping those guys, but I will be back the following week killing bugs again. So I might kill some bugs in Andrews. We'll see. All right, so we're going to pick up where we left off last week. And I skipped a couple of questions that I didn't have enough time to answer. So I'm going to pick up with this question here. It says, what are some signs I have a pest infestation? So I skipped this one last week because, you know, the signs of a pest infestation are almost endless. Obviously, if we see mouse droppings, that's a really good sign that there is a mouse, and I'll say infestation at the house. I tend to use that word kind of sparingly because what is an infestation? And maybe that's where we need to start, is defining what an infestation is. Because if I see an ant crawl across my kitchen counter, I'm not going to call that an infestation. It's an ant, and ants are not really considered like dirty, nasty insects that are spreading a bunch of disease and germs. So So I wouldn't consider that an infestation. But is one mouse an infestation? Is one cockroach an infestation? You know, I certainly wouldn't want those living in my house, because those particular organisms, because obviously one is a vertebrate and one's an invertebrate, but those two different pests, let's call them that, actually are known and documented to be able to carry and transmit various kinds of disease, whether through fecal matter or even getting it on their, I'll say, pads for the insects, or the feet for the rodent, through urine, certainly with the rodent. You can actually get hantavirus, which is a really nasty disease, through rodents. So is one an infestation? Maybe. It depends on the pest. So what is an infestation? You know, let's start there, and that's going to be different for different people. I actually don't want to see a fly. I would rather, and this sounds gross, but I'd rather a cockroach crawl across my plate of food than a filth fly or a house fly land on my plate of food. And here's why: because that fly, when it lands on my food, it is an automatic reflex. He can't help it. He automatically regurgitates. He vomits a little on my plate of food. He can't help it. It's just automatic as soon as he lands, and it's almost instantaneous that he does that. So that same fly might have just landed on a little dog turd, pardon the expression, that was in my grass, a pile of dog poop. Maybe that's a little kinder way to say it, and was just sucking up dog poop, dog feces in his mouth. Then he flies on my plate and he regurgitated that. That's super disgusting, I know, but that is the reality of filth flies. So just good to know. You know, there's kind of a sliding scale when it comes to pests and our tolerances. So I get kind of more anal about getting rid of those house flies in my house than I would even a cockroach. One cockroach could have actually come from outdoors in and just sort of happened to make his way into my house. It doesn't necessarily mean I have an infestation, but am I going to kill that cockroach? Absolutely. I'm going to try to kill it and get it out of there, because I want to make sure that he doesn't reproduce and that they don't become a problem in my home. That brings up a philosophical question. Why is it okay to kill a cockroach, but it's not okay to kill a dolphin? I don't know. Maybe we take a session on that later. So, Josh is shaking his head at me. He's telling me that's a no-go zone. Yeah, so you know, we won't get political or things like that. But that's probably a good question to discuss at some other time. So, live insects are obviously going to be a sign of a pest infestation. The fecal matter can be a sign of a pest infestation, because whether we're talking about cockroaches or filth flies or something larger like a mouse or a rat, they all will leave fecal smears and spotting. So we can see that even if the live insect or the live rodent is not around. Dead insects, of course, dead vertebrates, dead mice. You know, our cat, we know our cat loves us because she brings gifts and leaves them on the front porch, and it's usually decapitated rodents that our cat, I'm telling you, our
Presents.
Yeah, we say that she's a terrorist cat because they're all decapitated. So I don't know. Maybe that's not politically correct, but
We just got Facebook banned.
we probably did. We probably did. I offended someone out there. I apologize for offending you, but anyway. So all of these things can be signs and evidence of infestation. But dead insects, dead rodents, dead whatever, fill in the blank, that is, can obviously be a sign of that. It's easy to see in those severe infestations because, it's mice, rats, cockroaches, whatever, running everywhere. Ants, same thing. One ant across the countertop, I wouldn't say is an infestation. That's just an ant kind of wandering around seeing if there's anything interesting. But If I've got 100 ants in a trail going across my countertop, yeah, that's probably an infestation, and yeah, I probably want to take action on that. But again, I'm much less concerned about that 100 ants on my countertop as I would be about, you know, maybe only 2 or 3 filth flies flying around my plate of food. I'll still eat my plate of food even if an ant crawled across it. Ugh, the flies, there's a much higher chance that they did something gross and nasty to that. Hopefully that makes sense. There's also things like cast skins. So a cast skin, a lot of insects will need to molt and shed their skin in order to get larger and go to the next stage of that life cycle. So we would call those various stages, maybe like instars would be another term for the different stages of that life cycle as they molt and shed that skin and they get bigger and bigger. So that would be an example of gradual metamorphosis as opposed to complete metamorphosis. So complete metamorphosis, you go from the egg to the larva, which would be the worm or caterpillar stage of that. So even a fly maggot would be a larva. But so with that, you know, cute little fuzzy caterpillar that turns into a beautiful butterfly, that would also be a larva. All right, so you go from the egg to the larva to the pupa, where they make a chrysalis or a cocoon, but that pod that they pupate and they metamorphosize from a larva or a worm or a caterpillar stage into that adult, and the adult most often will have wings, not always, but you know, the 6 legs and the antenna, et cetera, that we always identify insects with. Versus gradual metamorphosis, which means they go from an egg into the first instar, and that immature instar often looks very, very similar to the adult, but it's just going to be smaller and sometimes a little bit different coloration, things like that. So those cast skins, those shed skins can often be a sign of infestation. Bed bugs would be a good example where we're looking for cast skins because bed bugs will molt and shed their skins. Spiders will shed their skins. I didn't really realize that spiders shed their skins the way they did until I had a pet tarantula, and I saw it one morning. It looked dead. I thought it was dead until I saw the new adult tarantula coming out of its old skin, and I'm not going to lie, it freaked me out a little bit. I might have even screamed. I don't know. It's all kind of a blur to me now. But molt and shed skins is something else we look for, and there's a number of different insects that have that. Carpet beetles would be a good one where we see cast skins as well. There can be other signs. So if we're talking about termites, you know, termite shelter tubes, damage caused by the termites, of course, damage to the wood. There's other wood destroying organisms like powder post beetles that are going to leave just a teeny tiny little pinhole size hole in the wood. If it's active, you're going to see frass. We call it streaming frass, but that doesn't mean that it's actively falling off of the wood. It just means that it's stuck to the wood in kind of almost a waterfall form. You have old house borer beetles, again, that can cause damage. Carpenter ants that are going to leave piles of frass and things like that. So, like I said, this is a big question, and it's hard to answer in just a very short synapse. But if you think that you have some sort of pest damage, whether it's rodents, vertebrates of other kinds, insects, then take pictures of that, send it to us. We'll do the best we can. We may be able to identify it from just a picture, or it may be something where we want to set up an inspection and come out and take a look. Most inspections, not all, but most inspections, there's no charge for it, so it just kind of depends on the situation. But certainly calling our office and asking some questions is free, so do that. Speaking of, one other pest I would say is bats. So bats, one of the biggest things that we are going to look for is the guano, the droppings. We've gotten a number of calls over the years, and people will see these droppings on the ground. They don't know where they're coming from. Of course, we're going to look up, because gravity is going to be a big indicator of where they came from. Oftentimes it'll be under the louvered vents from people's attic spaces that the bats roost up under. It's just a perfect roosting site for them. Sometimes it's a gap between the gutter and the roof line, and just different areas that those bats will be getting in. Sometimes they're actually in the attic itself, and we've seen infestations that can be anywhere from, you know, just 1 or 2 bats hanging out together to literally hundreds of bats crowded in an attic. In those situations, I've seen a bat infestation so badly that the guano, the poop, if you will, is just oozing out of the soffit vents and things like that. It's just completely overloaded, which again is a very dangerous thing to have in your home. You definitely want to get that cleaned up. You want to have an expert be able to come in and clean it up well with the proper HEPA filters, etc. Because one of the big dangers from the bat guano is going to be histoplasmosis, and that is essentially a fungus that can begin to grow in your lungs. Again, pretty gross, pretty nasty. You know, obviously it can essentially clog your lungs up to just, you know, without going into a great deal of detail, but it essentially starts growing tiny mushrooms in your lungs. So super gross. Don't want bats, don't want their guano hanging around, so getting rid of the bats is part of the issue. Depending on the situation, you may also need to have someone clean up that guano as well. So the guano is one of the big indicators that you have bat infestation. It also has a very distinct smell, so anyone who's been doing that work for a little while, once you kind of smell that guano smell, I can recognize it pretty quickly. Last year we actually had a customer that I went out to their house. Another company had told them they thought it was flying squirrels or something like that. They set up some traps and weren't catching anything. They called us to get a second opinion what they were hearing. They were hearing noises in the attic. So as soon as I opened the attic stairs and went up, I smelled the bats. I could smell them. Couldn't see any guano, couldn't see any live bats, but I could smell that guano, and got to looking around, went further back in the attic, and sure enough, I found a pocket of bats flying around in there. And, just really changed their world. So sometimes smell can be an indicator of that infestation. So Josh, did I cover everything there pretty well? Can you think of anything else? So I know we're out of time. That 15 minutes goes super quick, guys. So I know I can get a little long-winded, but I want to make sure that I don't just give such a short answer that I don't really give the whole picture. There is so much more that goes into pest control than just, you know, well, if you see a cockroach, you got an infestation. Well, maybe, but that's not really giving you the full picture of the thought and the process and the strategy that goes into that, and making sure that we're giving the right answers to our customers when they ask these things. So, all right, so guys, I think we'll wrap it up there for today. Happy 4th of July. Please don't blow your hand off or anything else. Oh my gosh. I can tell you some stories of when I was younger that I had some really close calls. I thank the good Lord that He watched over me, and I still have all 8 fingers on my hands. So go have some hamburgers, some hot dogs. Hopefully you can go swimming somewhere. I don't know. Spend time with friends and family, but it is a time for celebration. I am very proud to be an American, and I am so thankful that we live in this country. So happy 4th of July, everybody. Let's celebrate that. Celebrate it well. Celebrate it safely. We're going to be closed tomorrow. We'll be back at work. The office will be open Friday, and then of course closed for a long weekend. We had a couple of people that were smart enough to ask off for the Friday the 5th. Josh and I, we were not that smart. We were a little slow on the draw, so both of us will be here Friday. But happy 4th of July, everybody. Until next Wednesday, we'll see you later.